Hi, welcome back to the farm. My name's Roz, also known as Passion Flower, and you'll find me here each week talking about my farming and creative life. Happy New Year and welcome back. It is great to be recording again. I've got a whole lot to share. It's been almost a month since I recorded, I think, so I'm feeling a little bit out of practice, but I also have a stack of things to talk about. I'm hoping to not get too rambly, and I might hold off on a few things and talk about them next week. Otherwise, this is going to be a super long episode, and I try to keep them about the 20-minute mark. So we will see how we go. Um, so I hope you all had a really lovely Christmas and a safe and happy New Year. Um, there's been a lot of terrible natural disasters happening around Australia right now. There's been cyclones up in Queensland. There has been catastrophic bushfires in Victoria. And there just this past few days, there's been unseasonable downpour of rain on the Great Ocean Road, and there's been cars washed away. Australia, summer, we get the most extreme of conditions. So I was actually going to record my first episode of the year last week, but I normally record on a Friday, and last Friday was the catastrophic fire danger warning. It was an awful, awful day. Here we were fine. We were on an extreme fire warning, but like the next area over was catastrophic, and we were like, I would say, borderline in terms of being in that same category as well. Our closest fires were the Longwood fire up in near Eildon and Alexandra. I had the Vic Emergency app going all day. I had the radio going. I had things prepared for evacuation, and just watching for wind changes and embers, and also just keeping in touch if there was anything that happened locally, because everything is so dry, and the wind was absolutely bonkers crazy that day. It was coming from every direction. The gusts were so strong, and something could have happened at any time. And it was a really scary day. And I really feel for those people that were in those fire areas, because it would have been absolutely horrendous. So we were really lucky. We just had to be vigilant and just sort of weather the storm of a really horrible, hot, terrible day, rather than having to deal with any fires. So yeah, so I didn't record last week, so I've got even more to talk about now than I would have done back then. Um, where should I start? So Christmas was lovely with my family. We went on a cruise to Vanuatu and New Caledonia, and it was so amazing. The weather was incredible. Um, we got to snorkel on some really beautiful tropical islands, saw sea turtles and coral and fish, and I just had a really good time, and something like that. I've never done that before. I'm not a real swimmer. I'm not a real ocean baby kind of person. Um, but I absolutely loved it and would for sure do that again. Um, it feels like such a long time ago. So we got back on Boxing Day from that cruise. And yeah, I'll pop in some photos, just a little selection of what we did. But just a really wonderful escape, just to be on a cruise ship for 8 nights, and just to explore some different places and to get away from just, the regular grind of every day, I guess. So yeah, holiday was lovely. When we got home, I just sort of potted around for a little while. I didn't spend a lot of time over here. I've only kind of been over in the shed the last week or so, kind of getting back in to things a little bit, which I'll talk about soon. But in terms of my activities, I did a lot of knitting. I've done some reading, I've done a little bit of spinning, and I've done some sort of tidying up and refreshing of things. cleaning out the wardrobe a little bit, things like that. And I know a lot of people talk about New Year's resolutions, and this time of year, people start to say, these are my goals, whatever. I'm doing some changing of things and some spring cleaning, even though it's not spring. And I kind of was like, but I'm not doing it because I want a fresh start or because it's like New Year's resolution. And I couldn't really put my finger on like what the urge was that was taking me. And my sister pointed out it's because you've actually got space and time to think about it, which is so true. So, you're not, it's not in between work. It's not when you're just doing the regular chores on a weekend to, keep the house tidy. It's that you've actually got time to spend a little bit more just doing just, extra stuff. So it's been nice to, go through some drawers that I've just sort of, thrown all the junk in, and clean out the wardrobe a little bit. And yeah, it's been just nice to just sort of compress and be slow for a little while. I'm in a very lucky situation being working at a school that we have quite a long time off at this time of year. So you do have time to relax, like go on a holiday, go on a cruise, whatever, and then also get to spend some of that downtime at home, just being at home. So it's been a really lovely balance. I go back to work next week. So everything will kind of get back into a regular routine, I guess. So I'm trying to make the most of these last few days of holiday. And this past week has probably been the busiest in terms of farm activity. In fact, just yesterday was probably the busiest day we've had in weeks here on the farm because of the weather. That nothing really much has been happening. It's been, getting out in the evenings and making sure that all of the animals have water and food, rinse and repeat sort of thing. But then yesterday I had my sheep shorn, which was really great. I'm using a new shearer this year, and he was on time, super quick, and the sheep look great. Very clean shear this year, so really happy with that. So that was yesterday morning, and then we had to get the vet out for my sister's horse. It had a little stick, well, probably about this big, lodged in her head. Don't know how that happened. I think she must have like headbutted a post or something. So we've had that happen. She is fine. It's taken out, and there's a wound which now has to be treated, and she's on antibiotics. And our hay started to get cut yesterday as well. And this is super late for the hay being cut. The last few years we've had it cut early December, like mid to early September, like before we've gone away for Christmas. But this year it was still quite green. And then we had rain over that Christmas New Year period. So only now is it ready to be cut. So the slasher came yesterday, and he's finishing off one of the paddocks today. And then he said that it should be raked and baled by Sunday. So as this video goes live, we should be getting it baled up. So by next week, I'll be able to show you some of that and let you know how many we got. It's looking very, very thin. So we're not hopeful about our yield of hay this year, but some's better than nothing, and we need it for our own animals as well as providing a little bit of income for the farm. So yeah, so that all of that stuff happened just yesterday. There's still a few other things that have been happening, but I'll hold those over, and I can talk about those next week. Last time I recorded, I was just about to attend the All About Fibre and Yarn Christmas market in Lower Templestowe. Had a really lovely day with all of the vendors there. It's always nice to see everyone. And it was nice to wish each other a Merry Christmas. And for me, that was like signalling the end of the passion flower year, and to take a bit of a break and a holiday, which was really nice. So as I said, I've been thinking about some new colorways, and also thinking about a couple of different bases. So I've done a little bit of dyeing only in this past like week and a half. It's been really hot over here in the shed. So I've only been sort of coming over in the morning to do things. And then once the sun sort of gets the peak of its intensity, I've been just leaving everything and then coming back and doing stuff early again in the morning. So I have dyed up a batch on the new brushed merino base that I'd like to try. And I've also done it in a new colorway. And I'm started to craft with it too, which I'll show you soon. So this is it dyed up. I've made it sort of a pinky color with some sort of creamy tan neutral kind of tones in it. I'm thinking about calling this like mushroom perhaps. And here it is in the skein. So you can see the structure of it really well there, and also the way that it has the fluff. It is really fluffy, but it doesn't seem to shed, and it actually pulls out reasonably easily. I've been doing, as I said, doing some craft with it already, actually a little bit of crochet, and yeah, it's wearing really well. So I'll show you some of that project shortly, but I'm really loving this yarn. I can go up there. And I've also done a batch on the merino silk that I'm trying out. This is a new color, I think, that I will release for Easter. Really pretty and shiny, this yarn. And you can see it's got a little bit of drape going on there. So I haven't balled this up and started knitting with it yet, but yeah, I'm looking forward to trying that out soon. And I've also started to work on my autumn colorways. Yeah, that's right, autumn. I know we're peak summer right now. But I think by the time I get to markets, we'll be into autumn and winter. And I'd like to do some more subdued colors, not overly subdued, that kind of are tonal to solid, but that are a bit interesting, so that you can tell that you're using hand dyed yarn, not out of a factory, but that are wearable. That's kind of what I want to try and go with. So, and I've gone back to some colorways that I have dyed previously. This is honey, and I've got old tractor, and morning glow. So oranges and purples and pinks. And I was trying something out, and this is a bit of a fail. I mean, it's not a bad color. It's reasonably actually similar to this, but much darker. So this is Morning Glow. And this actually came out looking too similar to this, I think. I was trying to get like a dirty, dark pink, but some of it is that color, like this bit. You can see it here. Yeah, like that's the kind of color that I was going for, but it kind of didn't take quite the way I was hoping. So this is going to be a bit of a mistake batch, and I will rework my recipe and see if I can come up with the color that I actually wanted. So these are the three that I am happy with. Oops. As you can see there's some brightness there, but it's a little bit muted, a little bit of tonality through them. So I'm really happy with these, and I'm now working on sort of like a rainbow of colors for each season, which I will then also dye on my other bases as well. But I thought I'd start with the mohair because I had most of my colors already done on mohair. So I'm laying them out to kind of get an idea of how it looks over a year, if it makes sense. So yeah, that one is pretty, but not what I was going for. So that's my dyeing so far. First to what I am wearing this week. This is the Tolster Tee by Rebecca Clow. This is the second one I made. I made this on the cruise I went on for Christmas last year. and it uses my 2024 Christmas colorways, um, which I really love. And yeah, it's a good day to be wearing a t-shirt like this. I almost put on my grasslands tank, but the wind's quite cool today, so I thought a t-shirt was a little bit more appropriate. All right, now to my crafting, and I've done a reasonable amount, but not as much as I thought that I potentially would. Part of that reason is I did take knitting on the cruise, but in very different weather conditions to the previous year. So when I knit this, we were on a cruise to Hobart, and it was actually really cool and cold, and you could sit out on the deck and knit for hours because it wasn't humid and sticky and hot. But this year we were in the tropics, so we were in New Caledonia and Vanuatu, and it was hot, not like awful hot, but not knitting outside kind of weather. And we're on a different ship as well, which sort of had not as much space where you could sit and knit the same as you could on the previous ship that we'd been on. Still like great and everything, and plenty of spots to sit, but it wasn't as conducive to sitting and knitting as previous. So I worked on the test knit socks that I was doing, which I still can't show you. They're a secret, and they'll be coming out, I think, February, March. Um, so I worked on those, but didn't get them finished. I finished the first one, and I got some progress done on the second. And when I got home, I finished the second sock. So that was sort of what I worked on the cruise, and nothing else. So I hardly did any knitting whatsoever. Then when I got home, I decided that I would start a pair of socks for my sister. She had asked for a pair of DK socks. Um, and this is Bendigo Woolen Mills. They're tweed. This is the one that they have all the time. I don't know which. I don't think I've got the band in here for the color or anything. No. Um, so yeah, I'm doing them two at a time. My regular fish lips kiss heel from the toe up, and I'm probably going to knit until they come down to about the toe. So I've got a little way to go. So these are now my more portable project, and I sort of work on that when I want a break from the other things that I'm doing a little bit more thinking on. So they're making pretty good progress on those. Next, I will show you the project that I am making with the yarn that I dyed and I'm testing out. I'm making the Avena cardigan. So it is a band of crochet squares that go around the waist, and then you pick up and do a ribbed band below, and you pick up and do the yoke and the sleeves above, and then you add the button band. And I had this on my want to make list from Bendigo last year, and I was looking for yarn that I could make with it. I could make it with. And so it calls for a wool and a mohair held together, and I find that is really hot, like too heavy for me. And so it ends up being something that you don't wear all that often here. Like it doesn't get like super cold. I've got a wool mohair jumper that I've made, and I don't wear it all that often because it's like super, super warm. So I thought that this would be a really good opportunity to use this yarn, because the way that this is, it's got quite a bit of spring in it. It's also it's quite light, and even it's not a chain neck construction, but it kind of has that lightness about it, as opposed to like just a full-on wool, thick wool yarn that you would then add a mohair to. So I have done all of the crochet squares, and as I said, it's held up pretty well to ripping out, because I've had to rip out a few times because I'm not a crocheter with a capital C. I would call myself a knitter with a capital K. Like that, I'm a knitter more than I am a crocheter, but I can crochet, and I've done bits and pieces. I've done blankets. I've done a little bit of amigurumi, but it's not what I go to as my default craft, and I have to really think about it, and I have to, try and do it again, and I lose track and all of that kind of stuff. So these are the squares, which I'm super happy with. Look at that. It's coming out really nice. I've blocked all of these now. They're 13 by 13 centimeters, and I've done 14 of these. So then I have to now sew these together. So here's the rest of my, I have to sew these together so that I can then start doing the knitting part. I'm actually looking forward to sewing them together, but I just need to sit and lay them out and do it. I've kind of paired them together so that the colors look right, I think. And I feel like my squares got better as I went along. Like I feel like this is one of my last ones that I did. I feel like I actually did a nice job on the crochet in the end. Um, and I'm actually thinking about potentially doing like a little scrap crochet project where maybe I've looked at a couple of things on YouTube, maybe doing like little flowers and then joining all the flowers together to make a piece of fabric that I can then do something with, like a cushion cover or a blanket or something, just so that I can use small amounts and it can best be like sort of that, finished sort of things. I don't know. I am rambling now, aren't I? So yeah, that is the squares, and I'm now going to be up to the knitting part of that. So I'm really enjoying that, and was interesting and nice to sort of have that break and be doing a crochet and a small thing, especially when it's warm, even though this is like an 8 ply and quite warm and fluffy, to just have that small project on your lap or whatever rather than something quite large. So that's the Avena cardigan. Now, the next thing I'm working on was a finished object and is now back to being a whip. Um, I was talking to you last year about finding a project for this silk yarn that I had in my stash. It's one skein. Um, I it's from a dyer that no longer dyes, and I don't even remember the colorway name now. I don't think I have the band with me for this either, but it doesn't matter because you can't buy it. So, but it is beautiful. And I found a top pattern. I'll put it on the screen. I don't remember the name of it because I'm only using it for the numbers. I'm not using it for the patterning. So the name of the pattern it's not in my head because I want to knit that thing. I want to knit the shape of it, if that makes sense. So I've been searching and searching and searching on Ravelry. I thought I'd settled on a pattern, but then I decided that I didn't want to do that because it was a tank knit from the top down. And either way with a tank, you have to cut the yarn and then do each of the tops and backs sections separately. And I felt like that was going to waste too much yarn because I'm going to have tails to weave in, and you have to leave bits. So I thought it needed to be an in the round yoke top down so that there was no cutting of yarn and it was just all done in one piece. So I found this pattern, which has a lace yoke, but it's got sort of shortish sleeves. And then once you're done with the yoke, you just work down until it gets to the length you want. So I just worked out the number of increases that I needed to do in the yoke, just disregarding the lace, and just worked the yoke and then did the sleeves and worked down. And once I sort of got past here, I knew that it was going to be too short, but I wanted to finish doing the whole thing so that I could see how short I was, so that then I could figure out if it was going to be worthwhile pulling it all out and doing a slightly smaller version. And my decision was yes. So I'm going to put in what the finished item was. It still had everything sort of a longish piece of yarn attached. I hadn't cut anything. Please excuse my very white belly and a little bit of belly fat there potentially. But I just wanted to see like how cropped it was. And it was I think with blocking it would have been close to being okay, but not quite long enough. And I realized what I'd done is I'd actually done a little bit too deep on the yolk, and so I think, and so it was a little low under the arms compared to what I thought it might be. So and that's because I'd knit a few extra rounds, kind of not trusting that the pattern was actually going to turn out. I kind of had put it on holders and tried it on, but it just didn't act the way it did until I actually had more fabric around it. So I ripped it back all the way, like literally took the whole thing out, and I've restarted using the same pattern, but I've gone down to the smallest stitch count. So, and I've changed what I've done at the top. I had done ribbing at the start, but I've actually done a little bit of garter, and it's rolling, which I don't mind. I might block out to be straight, it might not. But so you've got garter bumps there, which looks really nice, because then there's garter on the sleeves, and then my decision was going to be to do garter on the hem at the bottom as well. So I'm now using the numbers for the smallest size. So the neckline should come in closer to what this is, maybe a little bit further out. It'll sit sort of like there. And the depth of the arm should end up being about the same, but it'll should hit a bit higher up rather than down here where my first attempt did. And then because it's got a yoke construction, and then it's got some raglan shaping after you finish doing the yoke, then I think I will raise the back a little bit with a couple of extra rows in the back, and then knit straight. And I think with the less depth for the arm and less stitches overall, that I should get a length that's a little bit better. Probably aiming for about the length of this top. If I stand up for a second, or even which kind of is actually probably even a little bit shorter than this, but this is probably a good length. Oh, see, belly button that sort of hits my belly button. I think that's going to be about right, and I think hopefully with that little bit of extra yarn taken from up here, I should be able to get it down here. So I'm enjoying knitting with this silk. It's really beautiful. I've never knit with silk before, and I'm finding it really easy to knit with. It's ripped out really well, like it's not even a crinkle in it, but I mean, I literally knit the whole thing in under a week. So I didn't stay in the project for very long before I ripped it out. And yeah, this is, once I'm through with the top, it's just knitting around and round and round. So it's perfect for sitting inside in the afternoons with the air conditioning on and just watching lots of rubbish TV while I'm still on holiday. So I've got a few more days of holidays. So I'm hoping that I can get through the increases and the arm split, and then I should be right to just keep going and finish this one off. So stay tuned to see if I can actually figure this out and hopefully get a whole top out of one skein of yarn. That's my hope and my aim. And if I can, then this pattern will probably be my go-to in terms of the shape and style that I prefer to wear. I kind of had this epiphany. I was putting a t-shirt on, and that was the style of t-shirt that I reach for the most on hot days. So if I can make myself some, then that would be really, really awesome. Okay, I did do a little bit of spinning as well, but it is soaking right now. So I will wait and I'll share that with you next week rather than keep this going any longer today. Well, that's it for another week. Thanks for spending some time with me. I know I had a lot to catch up on this week. If you've got any questions or comments, please leave them below. I'd love to hear from you, and look forward to seeing you next week on the farm. Bye.